Hello, and welcome back to Practically Political. Happy summer. I'm Dave Spencer. It's great to have you back.
And I'm Carrie Sheffield. As always, so great to have you all. And our special guest this episode. She's my dear friend. I think of her as a complete Renaissance woman. She is many things. She's a philanthropist. She's a clothing collector who's donated some beautiful historical pieces to different museums. She is a playwright and a film writer and TV writer for all kinds of shows that you've heard of and enjoyed. But for today, this Renaissance woman, her name's Keli Goff. And Keli Goff is also a political commentator. And she's a columnist with Daily Beast. And she's been on lots of other programs from MSNBC to XYZ, just name it. She's been on it. And we've been on PBS together. And that's how we met. And we just become friends. But Keli wrote a fascinating piece in the Daily Beast about Kamala Harris. And it came out in late July. And we're here in August, early August. And boy, a lot's happened since then. So Keli, tell us more about why you wrote that piece and what's happened since then. And what's your lay of the land on all things Kamala and this race?
Well, it was interesting because I wrote the piece because, as I said, I like Kamala Harris. And some of the reasons I like her is because we're a little bit similar, right? I made the case that, I'm a child-free by choice woman with a graduate degree who lives in a major urban area and am proudly ambitious. Was raised by my mother and father not to be afraid of being an ambitious young woman. And I've been labeled a bit bossy in my day. And what the piece was about is that, what I found is particularly among voters, ladies like me tend not to be particularly popular. If you go throughout history, the women, whether it's Hillary Clinton or people like that, who are sort of seen as nakedly ambitious and sort of non-traditional, tend to be the kind of women who a wide swath of the electorate is not keen on electing, particularly in super competitive races that are not in really blue urban areas, right? And so for that reason, and I buried the lead here, which is I'm also not a fan of Donald Trump. My case was that in the effort to save democracy, it would be best for someone like Kamala Harris to step aside and to sort of make way for a more electable candidate. Somehow I found out that got translated by some people as saying, I hate Kamala Harris and I don't believe Black women can, win major elective office, even though I spent half the piece talking about how much I like and respect her and how many wonderful, qualified, I think more likable and electable Black women there are out there. But I think people did what a lot of us have probably experienced, including you, Carrie, right? Which is someone reads a headline on Twitter and then can't be bothered to actually, read a few hundred words and then they kind of run with it. And so the reaction was really interesting because you know that I'm not particularly active on social media. I don't do Instagram, TikTok, and I'm barely on Twitter except for to like, really cute puppy videos. And so I kind of miss sometimes the hullabaloo when I write something, but I learned there was quite a hullabaloo and that the piece was one of the most widely read of my career, sort of flew around the world. But what was interesting is there were a couple of unhappy comments, if you will, from sort of the really super liberal peanut gallery that filtered my way. But for the most part, I heard from a lot of people privately, thank you for writing this and for having the courage to, because I'm finding that there are a number of people who actually agreed with the piece and are afraid to say so publicly. So which is not the first time that's happened in my career. My mother thinks that's like my entire career. She says I'm like, the political Braveheart where I ride up on the horse and I'm like, everyone agrees with me. And then I look behind me and everyone's running the opposite direction. So this was kind of one of those moments. And particularly because the piece was inspired by Black women I know who don't like Kamala Harris. So that was sort of the piece. So that's been the genesis. That's the story.